Welcome back. This is It's About Time. Let's get right to it.
So it looks like you've been spending a lot of time with Florida's criminal justice system.
Yeah,
LWOP specifically, huh?
I have.
Life without parole.
Yeah.
You've got some pretty interesting stuff here.
Yeah.
You've got excerpts from a legal brief.
Mm-hmm.
This one's arguing against LWOP. A news article about what's going on in Florida's prisons right now.
Right.
And selections from this book, Life Ain't Fair.
Yes.
It looks like it goes really deep on LWOP in Florida.
It does.
So I guess we're going on a deep dive today, huh?
Yeah.
Try and figure out how Florida got to be the world leader in giving out LWOP sentences.
Right.
And are they actually making the state safer? Some people say they are. And
Well,
what are the costs? Not just like money, but like for
No.
the people actually,
Sure.
serving these sentences.
Absolutely.
And, the communities they're a part of.
For sure.
You're right. There's a lot to this.
Yeah, so to figure out how we got here,
Okay.
we got to go back in time, right?
Yeah, back in time.
Back in the 70s and 80s, Florida was actually
Right.
kind of known for being lenient on crime.
Interesting.
The average time someone served on a life sentence was less than 6 years.
Wow.
I mean, that's crazy to think about,
It is.
given what things are like now.
Oh. So what happened?
Well, in the 80s, crime was on the rise.
Okay.
Not just in Florida, like everywhere.
Yeah.
And this sort of fueled this tough on crime wave,
Okay.
all through politics and policy.
Yeah.
And it was during that time that Florida
Okay.
started to make some pretty big changes to their laws.
Okay.
And it really changed sentencing,
Yeah.
like really changed it.
Life Ain't Fair goes through all those changes, right?
Right.
Mandatory minimums,
Yeah.
3 strikes.
Yeah,
They even got rid of parole for a ton of offenses.
they did.
It's like, bam, no chance of getting out early.
It really slams the door, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
One that seems like it had a huge impact was Florida's 10-20 life law.
Ah, yes, 10-20 life.
Yeah, tell me about that one.
So that one basically says, okay,
Okay.
if you have a gun when you commit a crime, that's 10 years.
Okay.
If you fire the gun, that's 20 years.
Okay.
And if you hurt or kill someone with it, life sentence.
Wow.
That's 10-20 life.
So it really shows how Florida went all in for mandatory sentencing.
It really does.
Judges can't really even consider
Yeah.
the person's individual situation.
Right.
It's all about punishment.
Absolutely.
Seems like things could get out of control pretty quickly,
Yeah.
especially with this other thing that comes up in Life Ain't Fair.
Okay.
Florida's felony murder rule.
Right.
It even gets brought up in that legal brief we were talking about.
Okay.
You can be sentenced for murder even if you didn't kill anyone.
Right.
If someone dies during a felony,
Right. So, like,
how does that even work?
let's say you're driving the getaway car
Okay.
for a robbery.
Okay.
Your friend goes into the store and he accidentally shoots somebody.
Okay.
You had no idea it was going to happen.
Right.
But you're still on the hook for murder.
Wow.
And you could get life without parole.
That's intense.
Very controversial rule.
Yeah.
The book has some really messed up stories about people serving LWOP
Oh, wow.
because of the felony murder rule, even though they didn't kill anyone.
Wow.
Like, they were just there.
That's all it took.
Yeah.
So that legal brief, right?
Yeah.
They're arguing that those mandatory LWOP sentences,
Okay.
especially in cases where there's no intent to kill, could be like cruel and unusual punishment.
Right.
Maybe even violating the 8th Amendment.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem to match
Yeah.
what the person actually did.
Yeah, the punishment doesn't really fit the crime.
That's a key point they make.
Big question.
There's also a big financial side to all of this.
Yeah.
Life Ain't Fair says Florida taxpayers are shelling out over $334 million
A year.
every year just to keep all the LWOP folks locked up.
Wow.
I mean, to put that in perspective,
Right.
that's enough money to send thousands of kids to college.
Yeah, or fund all sorts of
Or, yeah,
community programs.
all sorts of things. The
Yeah.
book even mentions a study that
Yeah.
found a lot of these people serving LWOP. They're not even considered high risk inside the prison.
Really?
That kind of reminds me of that news article about Florida's prisons.
Oh, yeah.
That former FDC secretary, Mark Inch,
Yeah.
called it a crisis
He did.
because they're so short-staffed.
Right, understaffed.
Yeah.
Big time.
It's not a good situation.
Not good.
You've got prisons, they're jam-packed people serving these long sentences.
Right.
Not enough staff to
Yes.
keep things running safely and well.
It's a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Here's something really interesting.
Okay.
Life Ain't Fair actually says
Mm-hmm.
that relying so much on LWOP
Yeah.
could be making Florida less safe.
What?
Yeah.
How's that?
Even though crime rates are going down here,
Interesting.
the authors have some pretty interesting points.
Okay.
They point out that crime is going down all over the country, not just in states that have these
Right.
really tough sentencing laws.
Right. So maybe Florida's way isn't the only reason.
Yeah, maybe not.
Interesting.
They even suggest
Yep.
that all this mass incarceration could actually be causing more crime in some places.
Wow.
I mean, how could that be?
I don't know. How could that be?
Well, they say that when you remove so many people,
Yeah.
especially young men, from their communities
Okay.
and lock them up for life,
Yeah.
you're messing up social structures,
Yeah.
family ties,
Hey.
and that can actually lead to,
Two more crime.
yeah, like a cycle
A vicious cycle.
poverty and crime
Right.
that impacts generations.
Wow.
So it's not just about the person in prison,
Right.
it's about their family,
Their whole community.
their whole community.
Wow.
This is really making me rethink some things about LWOP.
Yeah.
It's way more complicated than I thought it was.
Way more.
Yeah.
It really is. It seems like you're really trying to wrap your head around the effects of all this.
Yeah.
Not just on the people locked up,
Right.
but on the whole state of Florida.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where it gets really complicated.
It does. Life Ain't Fair actually says that Florida being so tough on crime
Yeah.
might have made the state less safe.
Wow.
That really got me thinking.
It's a bold statement they're
Yeah.
suggesting.
Yeah.
That by taking away so many people,
Okay.
especially young men,
Yeah.
and locking them up forever, it could be destabilizing whole communities.
Right.
You're taking away people
Yeah.
who could actually be helping,
Yeah.
contributing.
Yeah.
And it just feeds this cycle
Right.
of poverty and crime. And there's a lot of research out there that shows this connection.
Yeah.
They give this really powerful example
Oh, yeah.
about fatherlessness.
Yeah.
You know, so many men, especially black men,
Right.
are locked up for so long.
Yeah.
It creates this ripple effect
It does.
that impacts families for generations.
Yeah.
It's not just the one person.
Yeah, it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
what's the point of the whole criminal justice system?
A big question.
Is it just about punishment?
Right.
Or should it also be about
Yeah.
rehabilitating people and helping them get back into society?
Exactly. Exactly.
That's a huge question.
It is.
Life Ain't Fair seems to be pushing for that. Like, let's move away from just punishment
Yeah.
towards a more restorative approach.
Absolutely. That's exactly what they argue for.
They're saying that focusing on rehab and second chances wouldn't just be fairer.
Right.
It'd actually be better at reducing crime
Yeah.
and making things safer.
Over the long term,
Yeah, over time.
for sure.
So Florida's the world leader in LWOP. What does that say about Florida?
It's a tough one.
Yeah, what are our values?
It makes you think they've chosen retribution
Yeah.
over rehabilitation.
Like, we want to punish people
Yeah.
more than we want to.
Give them a chance to change.
Give them a chance.
Yeah. Remove them from society.
And the cost of that.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's-
Life Ain't Fair says that even a low estimate of how much it'll cost
Yeah.
to keep the LWOP folks locked up
Right.
for the next 20 years
Okay.
is $6 to $10 billion.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's an insane amount of money.
Think of all the things we could do with that money.
Oh my God.
Like things that could actually
Yeah.
help prevent crime.
Education, job training,
Yeah, education.
mental health services,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Community programs.
Yeah, that's where we should be investing.
So we've seen that Florida's LWOP system,
Yeah.
it's complicated, costs a ton, might even be making things worse,
Right.
but what can we actually do about it?
That's the big question.
Are there other ways to do this?
That's what we need to figure out.
Life Ain't Fair does have some ideas.
Okay, like what?
One that stuck out to me
Right.
was those second chance integrity units.
Yes, inside prisons.
Yeah, tell me about those.
So these units would have all these programs,
Okay.
rehab programs, education,
Okay.
job training,
Yeah.
all to get inmates ready
Okay.
to go back into society.
Yeah.
and be successful.
So instead of just keeping them locked up,
Yeah.
we're actually giving them the tools to change their lives.
Exactly.
And if they can become productive members of society,
Yeah.
wouldn't that make everyone safer?
Absolutely. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
The book says this second chance approach
Yeah.
could save the state billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Instead of spending millions to lock people up,
Right.
we could help them become taxpayers,
Yeah.
contributing to the economy.
It seems like a win-win.
It does, doesn't it?
Oh, so they talk about.
They also have this idea
Okay.
of second chance hidden capital.
Okay.
Of like
Yeah.
people serving LWOP, they have all these skills and talents,
Yeah.
life experiences that are just going to waste.
Right.
They're saying, let's give them opportunities
Okay.
to use those skills,
Even while they're in prison.
even while they're in prison.
Like what kind of opportunity?
Things like mentoring young people,
Okay.
developing businesses, creating art and literature,
Okay.
stuff that can be shared with the outside world.
That's pretty interesting.
It is.
It's like we're overlooking this whole resource.
Yeah.
It could benefit everyone. It challenges this idea that
Right.
people serving LWOP
Yeah.
are beyond hope.
Right. They have nothing to offer.
Yeah.
That's not true.
So it's about seeing them as human beings
Absolutely.
with potential,
Yeah.
even though they made mistakes.
Even though they made mistakes.
So if we actually want to do this,
Okay.
move to this restorative approach,
Right.
what would it look like?
Well, for one thing,
Yeah.
we'd have to change some of those harsh sentencing laws.
The ones that got us here in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe get rid of mandatory minimums for some crimes.
Okay.
Change the felony murder rule. Maybe even bring back parole for some offenses.
Okay.
And we'd have to invest in really good rehab programs,
Yeah.
both inside and outside of prisons
Okay.
and communities.
But wouldn't that be really hard to do?
It would be tough.
There's a lot of people who don't want to change the system.
There is.
The book even talked about that.
Yeah.
Like the political climate in Florida.
Yeah.
It's a big obstacle.
They said hardly any bills
Yeah.
about criminal justice reform even get considered,
Yeah.
let alone passed.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
There are powerful forces
Yeah.
that like things the way they are.
Yeah.
And change is never easy.
It's not.
But Life Ain't Fair says it all starts with education. People need to understand
Yeah.
how complicated this is and the real human cost
The human cost.
of the system we have now.
Yeah.
So it's about raising awareness,
Okay.
getting involved in advocacy, and holding our leaders accountable.
Yeah.
It's also about talking to people we know,
Yeah.
friends and family, who might see things differently.
Right.
We need to challenge our own ideas,
Yeah.
be willing to listen, even when we disagree.
It's about believing that things can be better,
Exactly.
even if it seems impossible.
Yeah.
This deep dive,
Yeah.
it's really making me think about how connected we all are.
We are.
You know, the choices we make,
Yeah.
especially about things like criminal justice,
Right.
they have these consequences
Yeah.
we don't always see.
That's so true.
That's one of the big takeaways from Life Ain't Fair.
It is.
It makes you think about the human cost of all this
Yeah.
and ask,
Really.
is there a better way?
Is there a better way?
Life Ain't Fair is really asking for some pretty big changes.
Yeah. They want us to rethink how we think about crime and punishment.
Like, what are we trying to do with prisons?
Exactly.
Can people actually change?
Right. Are they capable of it?
It makes you see things in a new light.
It does.
You know, one thing I really liked about the book,
Yeah.
they use a lot of data
Oh, yeah.
and research to back up what they're saying.
It's not just opinions.
Yeah, they don't just say, oh, LWOP is bad for Florida.
Right.
They show you the numbers,
Yep.
the studies, real stories
Real people.
to prove their point.
That's important.
Yeah, you can't just go on feelings, right?
No, we need facts.
We need real evidence
to make good decisions.
and to see if what we're doing is actually working.
Right.
Life Ain't Fair gives us that evidence.
For example,
Okay.
they talk about how
Yeah,
Florida's supposed to be super tough on crime,
right.
but there are some problems
Oh, yeah.
with the crime data in the state.
Yeah, it's hard to know
Yeah, like,
if things are getting better or worse.
are we making progress
Yeah,
or not?
it's hard to say.
The data's not always accurate.
That's what they say.
They found that only a small percentage
Yeah,
of law enforcement agencies in Florida
right.
are even reporting their crime data.
Consistently.
Yeah, like they're not doing it all the time.
So we're not getting the whole picture.
Yeah, it makes it hard
Very hard.
to know if all these tough on crime policies
Right.
are actually working like they should.
That's a big problem.
It's like trying to solve a math problem.
But you're missing half the numbers.
I know. It's like
You can't do
you
it.
can't get a clear answer.
The book also talks about judges
Oh, okay.
and how much power they have.
Or don't have.
Yeah. In Florida,
Right.
it's called judicial discretion.
Yeah, the ability to decide
Right.
what's appropriate.
And there's not a lot of it here.
Right. Florida has all these mandatory minimums,
Yeah.
so judges don't really get to decide.
Yeah, even if they think
Yeah.
someone doesn't deserve life without parole,
They might have to give it anyway.
the law's like, nope, sorry.
Your hands are tied.
So even if there are things
Yeah.
that would make the judge think, okay,
Okay.
maybe this person could be rehabilitated,
Right. Maybe there's a chance.
they don't get to make that call.
The law is the law.
So after all this,
Yeah.
it's pretty clear.
Florida's LWOP system is
Yeah, it's messy.
very
Expensive.
expensive,
Oh, yeah,
but it also makes you think about
it does.
what we care about as a society.
Yeah.
Big questions.
Like, what is justice?
Yeah, is this really just
Is the system actually working?
right? Is it serving us?
And you know what? Life Ain't Fair doesn't just complain about the system.
They offer a solution.
They do.
Yeah, they want us to imagine a system that focuses on rehabilitation,
Yeah.
restoration,
Second chance.
giving people a chance to make things right.
And they explain why that's not just the right thing to do
Right.
morally.
But also
It makes sense practically.
and financially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we get Florida to change?
That's the million-dollar question.
Where do we even begin?
The book has a plan.
Oh,
They say it starts with education.
Okay.
Making sure people understand.
Understand the problem.
Yeah, what this system is really costing us.
Okay.
And then we need to push for change.
Okay.
Reform those harsh sentencing laws.
Yeah.
Invest in rehab programs. And give people in prison real chances
Real opportunities
to do good.
to contribute.
It's a big change.
It is.
But it starts with believing
Believing that people can change.
and that they deserve another chance.
That's a powerful idea.
It is.
It seems like if we want a fair system in Florida,
Yeah.
we all have to rethink our
Yeah.
assumptions.
And demand better.
Yeah. And this isn't just about Florida.
It's bigger than that.
It's a conversation happening all over the country.
The U.S. has the highest incarceration rate in the world.
We need to ask ourselves why.
Yeah, why are we locking up so many people?
Is it actually working?
Is it making us safer?
That's what Life Ain't Fair makes you think about.
Those big questions.
This deep dive has given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
It's not just about numbers and laws.
It's about people.
Yeah.
Real people's lives.
The choices we make,
Yeah.
how they affect people,
Families.
families, communities.
Communities, the whole state.
We gotta start making choices.
Yeah, choices that reflect,
Our values.
choices that make the world a better place.
A more just world
For everyone.
for everyone.
This is It's About Time.